Where am I talking to? Is this Iowa?
You guys?
Yeah!
So do you know where I am?
New York!
Who's been to New York? What did you do here? Wait, I already did my homework here. Marie, raise your hand.
Hop on up.
Hi.
Hi.
How about Mateo? Is Mateo here?
Yeah, I'm here.
And how about Brady?
Right here.
Yeah, they warned me about you, Brady.
That can't be good.
So
Okay, I knew that would happen.
somebody tell me the assignment. You guys can go back. You guys can sit. I just wanted to recognize your faces. Tell me about the assignment. What are you doing?
We...
Go ahead and go up to start talking to him.
Go, Logan.
Gap boy. Gap guy. Tell me what your assignment is.
The new one that we're doing right now?
Yeah.
Oh, we are talking, we are going online and researching different kinds of things that we are against or for. Like, for instance, drugs, animal abuse, like, any of the things that you're, like, against.
Okay, so what's the difference between, what is that called? What is that kind of writing called? I'll give you three choices. Is it called a sports story? Is it called a newspaper article? Or is it called an opinion piece?
An opinion piece.
Okay. That's the important question. That's what we're going to talk about today. Who here, by a show of hands, has an opinion? On everything, right? We all have opinions. Now, if you pick up the newspaper today, I actually picked up a story. Who's a sports fan? Anybody like football?
Yeah.
I read a story today. Here's what it says. It's talking about the Ravens game. I'm from Baltimore, so I'm pretty happy that they beat the Cleveland Browns on Monday. But it says, this is how the story begins. Will Hill returned a blocked field goal attempt for a touchdown as the Baltimore Ravens scored a dramatic 37-27 win over the Cleveland Browns on Monday. That's a newspaper story. Can anybody tell me what the one word that you will never usually find in a newspaper story is? Yep.
The word you?
Close. Yeah.
I think.
Because a newspaper story, I can't say, last night the Baltimore Ravens and I beat the Cleveland Browns, and I was so excited. Well, frankly, the reader of the newspaper doesn't care about if you were excited or not. They just want to find out who won the game. But in an opinion piece, which is what I write for newspapers, it's actually a story that tells what happened, but then you're allowed to put your opinion in. And that's the only place you really, in opinion essays, the kind you'll be writing for this newspaper, that's actually the only time you're really allowed to have opinion. Now, just let me give you a little background on me. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. Everybody know Baltimore?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. Then I went to college at the University of Maryland. Then I went to New York City to be an actor, and I was in a horror movie. And I was on a TV show called Different Strokes. Did anybody see that on, no, way before. And I was commercials and I wore goofy outfits and stuff. And then I became a magazine editor. I said, enough for starving. I wanted to be able to make a living. So I became a magazine editor, and then I started writing for newspapers. And along the way, I fell into this thing about opinion writing, and it's really, really a lot of fun, and it's really an interesting type of writing because you have to do two things. Gap Boy mentioned, I forget your name. Somebody mentioned going on research. What is your name? So I don't keep calling you Gap Boy? Logan. I have a nephew named Logan. As Logan mentioned, you're doing research online. Now, is the newspaper giving you any topic you want to cover? Are you allowed to write about anything you want, or did they give you some guidelines?
Guidelines.
Do you guys know what you're going to be writing on yet?
Yes.
So why don't you just one at a time just tell me what your topics are going to be?
Why don't you guys start down on the end, and each person can say their topic just one at a time. Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
Do you want me to go first?
You can do it from there. Just say your topic. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
My topic is depression.
Depression. So you're going to be doing research. Let's go through them all first. You can just shout them out.
Yeah. Okay. So shout them out one at a time.
Suicide, self-harm, and depression.
Okay.
Suicide.
Okay.
Gun safety.
That's what I like. Okay.
Animal abuse.
Animal abuse. God, you guys are so uplifting. This is all good stuff. Next.
Racism.
Racism. Wow. Yeah.
Depression and suicide.
Jesus, I was in such a good mood before I talked to you all. Next.
Role models.
Oh, I love that. I've written about role models before. Just out of curiosity, who's your role model? Besides me.
I don't know.
You don't know yet? You'll figure it out, I promise you. Anybody else?
Bullying prevention.
Oh, man, I've been writing about that a lot. Who in the class is a bully? No, I'm kidding. Never mind. Go on.
Okay. Go ahead.
I figured that, Logan.
Terrorist attacks.
Oh, okay. You guys are tackling some really strong stuff, yeah?
Safety.
Gun safety?
Bullying.
Okay.
Bullying.
All right.
Drugs.
Drugs.
Depression.
Depression.
Animal rights.
Animal rights.
Bullying.
Bullying.
Animal rights.
Okay.
Gun control. Animal abuse.
Gun safety.
Sport safety. Animal rights.
What was that? What was that one?
Animal rights.
Oh, okay.
Schools electronic policies.
Oh, nice, nice. Tough and nice.
Animal abuse.
Animal.
Depression.
Depression. Hey, let me hang on for 1 second. Daisy, you like animals so much, I want to see if my dog will come over and say hi. Daisy.
It's a dog.
You don't want to scare Daisy.
Daisy is writing a piece on owner abuse. All right, so here's the secret. All right, I picked a topic, and I was kind of stupid because I picked a fake topic that isn't as serious as these. These are all wonderful, wonderful topics, and they're quite serious, and there's a lot written about them. When you're doing your research, a kind of important thing often to do is to find an expert in the subject and to get quotes. I'm sure you've already done that in your papers already. But I picked an example that is not particularly as serious about it, but I picked one that was fun and that you could all relate to, and it had to do with music. And I'm going to use it as an example. Who here likes or liked at one point in your life One Direction? See, it's boy that. And who here liked or liked at one point Taylor Swift? Oh man, I think that's a runaway vote. Here's what I pretended. I pretended I was going to write a piece on why One Direction was the greatest music group in the world. I personally don't think that, by the way. That's to the Beatles, but that's because it's my generation. But what if I was going to write an article on why One Direction was the best group in the world? Well, here's how I would start. And I'm going to give you a formula that you can remember in your head. I'm telling you now, you don't have to stick to this formula. This is just one that you find a lot in op-ed pages in newspapers. The op-ed page actually stands, the word op-ed means, it stands for, in some cases, opinion editorial. Sometimes it means it's the op part is it's opposite the editorial, but it's the pages of the magazine in the newspaper where everyone is allowed to talk about their opinion. So this is a formula that you don't have to stick through, but it's one that works if you get caught. And I've written an outline here. It begins, usually op-eds begin, if they're done smart and they're done fun, it begins with one paragraph at the top that'll try to catch the reader right away. If I was going to write it on One Direction, and I was 12 years old, I would write, last Tuesday, I was being called to dinner by my mom, and she kept screaming and screaming for me to come to dinner, but I was in my room listening to One Direction, and I couldn't go to the dinner table until I finished listening to this song. That group has gotten me in trouble more than I can remember. It's a silly story. It's a and I'm just making this up here, but if it was true, it's a silly story, but it gets the reader in. It gets the reader interested. If you guys were going to do an opening paragraph, it doesn't have to be funny, but if an opening paragraph that was personal, maybe the gun safety piece would start with, when I was 7 years old, a neighbor down the street was killed. He was my age, and he was killed because there was no gun safety. Or, when I was in school, I was the only black kid in my class, or I was the only white kid in my class. Some story and that would be, of course, about racism. I've written a lot about racism, and I wrote, as a matter of fact, I wrote about, my kids went to, to go to a public school where kids of all colors were, which was different when I grew up. And my daughter, Audrey's, who's white, her boyfriend, how you had a boyfriend in kindergarten, or a girlfriend, was black, and I noticed, and I noticed what was interesting is that this integration was not, when I was a kid, that wasn't prevalent when I was a kid. And as I mentioned in my opening paragraph, that my daughter has this boyfriend, God, what was his name? I forget. But I talked about the only thing that they cared about color was who had better crayons. So skin color didn't come into it. My point is that it was an anecdote, a story that got people into the piece. Next paragraph you write, and this is the really important that all of you have to write in your pieces, it's usually the second paragraph of your opinion essay, is what is your argument? For example, who's got the gun safety? Is that Logan? Is that you next to Logan? What is the what is your opinion on gun safety? What do you think you're going to wind up saying?
That you should be able to carry around a gun, but it should always have the safety on it.
Right. And do people agree with that, or do you think that there's a big fight in this country about that?
Big fight about that.
Yeah, I do too. So the second graph is sort of saying to the reader, the second paragraph is sort of saying to the reader, okay, here's what my piece is going to be about. So let's just say that I'm doing back to my silly One Direction one. So I left off by saying, more often than not, One Direction has gotten me in trouble with my mom. My second paragraph is going to say, but I am not alone. More than 10 million kids across the United States call One Direction the greatest music group that ever lived. And in other words, now you're presenting your argument to your reader and explaining why. But you can't just say because, well, actually, the people who raised your hand and said that they like One Direction. Why do you like them? Anybody?
Yeah, Jonathan, why do you like them?
Go ahead and yell it
Okay,
out.
you just shout it out.
Because I like their music and like the beat in the background.
You what?
Because I just like the lyrics and the music in the background.
Okay. It's not what I want. That's somebody else?
Okay, go ahead, Mia. You had your hand up.
I was gonna say that I like their music too, but I also like
how they how they sing. It sounds nice, and how they combine their voices.
Maybe. Yes.
Well, I like their music, and I also like their faces. So, I mean, just put those together, and it's pretty awesome.
Okay, so here's what you. By the way, you all answered honestly and perfectly, but that's not what makes you an opinion writer, because you actually need more than that. That's what you throw in as the extra stuff. What you want to throw in now into this paragraph, which is at the beginning, and for any adults listening to the room, the actual term for it is the nut graph, N-U-T, because it combines the nut of the argument. That's just for that's just an industry term. What I would suggest is that the second part of the paragraph says, "I am not alone." That's because One Direction has racked up more awards and has more impact than any other group of their time. They have won 5 Brit Awards, 4 MTV Music Video Awards, 11 MTV Europe Music Awards, 19 Teen Choice Awards, and according to Nick Gatfield, the chairman and chief executive of Sony Entertainment, they represented a $50 million enterprise by June 2012. Now, what did I just do there? Anybody? Yeah, in the back?
Deja, what did you say?
Tell all the facts about them.
Pardon me?
Tell all the facts about them.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you were going to say? Is that Mateo in the front? No, who's that?
Jonathan.
Oh,
Jonathan.
I was gonna say you're pretty much telling them good things that they've done and what's making them become more popular and that stuff.
You're giving the facts. So this is the secret to writing opinion. It's really like an article that you're reading in the newspaper with all sorts of facts, but you just get to throw it in. Jonathan, what's the name of the young woman next to your right?
Me.
Yeah.
Mari.
I keep wanting to call you Elisa because you look just like my niece. This is freaking me out. Now, what I would do with Mari is I would actually throw in what she said at the end. I would say they've won 5 Brit Awards, 4 MTV Music Awards, 19 teachers, and according to Nick Gatfield, the chairman of Sony Entertainment, they represent a $50 million business. And then I go into a new paragraph and say, and also, they have nice faces. Now that's fun. That's fun. Now, okay, so we've established now that we like One Direction. I feel like an idiot, by the way, because my little example of One Direction isn't nearly as serious as terrorism, suicide, gun safety, animal abuse, racism, or depression, but we'll just keep going with my silly version. Here is what's going to happen now. You've got to, after you establish the facts and why you believe this, and maybe in gun safety it would be because of death. Maybe if suicide, you'll find out is the suicide rate going up. You'll find out if you're doing animal abuse, you'll find out how many animals have been being abused across the country. You know, is the trend going up or down? What is going on? We know what animal abuse is, but Daisy is now hiding, by the way. You're going to find out what the trend is. Now what you have to do is recognize that there are people in the audience reading yours who disagree with you. So what do you think? Does anybody have an idea of what you would do, how you talk about the people who disagree with you? Anybody? In the back?
Make it sound so terrible and so bad that they start to agree with you.
That they're bad to a part? Oh, yeah, right. So how do you acknowledge them in the piece? How do you write about them in the piece? You have, Mari.
Give examples of why it's so bad or good.
And the reason why. And it's one of these secrets. They call it, this is also for grown-ups in the room, just call it the to be sure paragraph. The reason they call it the to be sure paragraph is the words that begin it. It's not only, sometimes it's on the other hand. So here I go. I'm continuing this lecture after you all broke up, or I broke up. So let me continue where I was saying before the signal went out. Is that when we get into the last paragraph, and Aaron, you can actually raise your hand if I start breaking up, and
Okay. Sure.
All right, so let me start again. Okay, I'm continuing this after the signal broke up. I'm now with Aaron talking directly. Here's where we left off. You've now made your opening comment that is, your anecdote, your story that gets the reader hooked in. Then you've made your thesis statement, your argument statement. In this case, why One Direction is the best band in the world. Then you've done your on the other hand paragraph in which you've talked about why Taylor Swift also deserves to be mentioned. But here's where the fun part comes in. You say, but, and you go back to your original argument, but now you have to say something more about One Direction that really brings it home. Now, in my case, if I was going to do it, I would going to say, but my reason for One Direction being the best band in the world is because it's not just about their music. It's that they are role models and that they lend their money to important needs. And then because of your research, you'll say, for example, they volunteered in Ghana, in Africa, for a British charity called Comic Relief that takes care of homeless kids. Harry Styles and Liam Payne also raised more than $800,000 for fundraising for a nonprofit group that supports cancer research. So in other words, you're driving your point home with something extra that really solidifies your argument to why you think that One Direction is better than Taylor Swift. Now, again, I'm going to tell you that my example is kind of silly here, especially because you are all dealing with some pretty serious issues. So if I could just wrap up by saying, for example, if you were going to do gun safety, you would argue that on the other hand, a lot of people say that there are Second Amendment rights and that we should have to be able to, have guns when we want. But your final paragraph would say something along the lines of, yes, but you can still have your gun rights and practice safety at the same time. If you were doing an animal abuse, let's take another example on of drugs. Your argument could have been, but drugs are important because they cure illness. But your final paragraph, it said, would have to drive your argument home and say, yes, but the drugs that cure illness cannot be available to young people or addicts who abuse them. So in other words, you have formulated your argument throughout the entire thing. You've strengthened it. You've given the other side their opinion. Now you've brought it home and said, but this is what I believe. It doesn't hurt if your very last paragraph refers back to that first paragraph. That's often fun thing to do. So if my Taylor Swift example, after the One Direction example, now that I've made the argument the One Direction is, I would maybe end it with something funny that said, so now I hope I've convinced you why One Direction is the best. Now I only hope I can convince my mom.
Right.
So she'll stop telling me to come down to dinner. So that is basically the structure. I want to end by saying I'm crazily impressed with you and with your teacher for picking these very serious topics like terrorism and drugs and depression and suicide is and if you go on my website, which is brucekugler.com, and look in the USA Today section, I've written a lot about racism, I've written a lot about depression in children, and I've written an awful lot about bullying, but I'm hoping that your teacher will be sending me your essay so I can take a look. And I thank you for your time. I'm sorry that we broke up for Skype, but thank you, Aaron, for your time, too.
No, thank you. You did an amazing job. You were I was very impressed. So I thank you for, one, carving out time out of your day, and two, holding the kids' attention. And I think it was really good. I've sat through a lot of different Skype sessions, and they're hit or miss, and you were definitely one of the better ones for sure. So I thank you for your personality, your flair, and connecting with the kids and everything else. I mean, that really sells the idea. So thanks you.
Thanks so much, Aaron. I really appreciate it. And And Daisy says goodbye too.
Yeah, hey, she was a home run with the kids there for sure.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be. All right, buddy.
Yes, thank you again, and we'll be in contact. We'll definitely share this stuff out for you.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Yep, have a great day.
You too.